2 Kings. Chapter 24. In his days Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years, then he turned and rebelled against him. And Jehovah sent against him bands of the Chaldeans and bands of the Syrians and bands of the Moabites and bands of the children of Ammon, and he sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of Jehovah, which he spoke through his servants the prophets. Surely it was at the command of Jehovah that this came to pass against Judah, to remove them out of his sight because of the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he had done. And also for the innocent blood that he shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and Jehovah would not forgive. And the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Jehoiakim slept with his fathers. And Jehoiakim his son reigned in his place. And the king of Egypt did not come out of his land again, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem, and the name of his mother was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan from Jerusalem. And he did what was evil in the sight of Jehovah, according to all that his father had done. At that time the servants of Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon went up to Jerusalem, and the city came under siege. And Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon came against the city while his servants were besieging it. And Jehoiakim the king of Judah went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants and his captains and his eunuchs, and the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he brought out from there all the treasures of the house of Jehovah and the treasures of the king's house. And he cut in pieces all the golden vessels which Solomon the king of Israel had made in Jehovah's temple, as Jehovah had said. And he carried away into exile all Jerusalem and all the captains and all the mighty men of valor, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained except the poorest people of the land. And he carried Jehoiakim away into exile to Babylon, and the king's mother and the king's wives and his eunuchs and the leading men of the land, he carried away into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. And all the 7,000 men of valor and the 1,000 craftsmen and smiths, all mighty men fit for war, even these the king of Babylon carried away into exile to Babylon. Then the king of Babylon made Jehoiakim's uncle Mattaniah king in his place, and he changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah, from Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of Jehovah, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For it was through the anger of Jehovah that this came to pass in Jerusalem and in Judah until he cast them out from his presence. And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. 2 Kings. Chapter 25. In the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon came, he and his whole army, against Jerusalem and encamped against it, and they built a siege wall against it all around. So the city came under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe within the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then the city was breached, and all the men of war fled by night by way of the gate between the 2 walls, which was by the king's garden, while the Chaldeans were all around the city, and the king went on the way toward the Arabah. And the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king, and they overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. And they seized the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and they pronounced judgment upon him. And they slaughtered Zedekiah's sons before his eyes, then put out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him with bronze fetters and brought him to Babylon. In the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, this was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, the servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. And he burned the house of Jehovah and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every large house he burned with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the bodyguard broke down the walls around Jerusalem. And the rest of the people who were left in the city and the deserters who deserted to the king of Babylon and the rest of the multitude, Nebuzaradan the captain of the bodyguard carried away into exile. But the captain of the bodyguard left some of the poorest of the land to be vinedressers and field workers. And the Chaldeans broke in pieces the bronze pillars, which were in the house of Jehovah, and the bases and the bronze sea, which were in the house of Jehovah. And they carried their bronze to Babylon. And they took away the pots and the shovels and the snuffers and the spoons and all the bronze vessels with which they ministered. And the captain of the bodyguard took away the fire pans and the bowls, that which was of gold, for its gold, and that which was of silver, for its silver. As for the 2 pillars, the 1 sea, and the bases which Solomon had made for the house of Jehovah, the bronze of all these vessels was beyond weight. The height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and a bronze capital was upon it, and the height of the capital was 3 cubits, and a network and pomegranates were upon the capital all around, all of bronze, and the 2nd pillar was like these with a network. And the captain of the bodyguard took Seraiah the chief priest and Zephaniah the 2nd priest and the 3 doorkeepers. And from the city he took 1 eunuch, who was overseer of the men of war, and 5 men from the king's inner circle who were found in the city, and the scribe of the captain of the army, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan the captain of the bodyguard took them and brought them to the king of Babylon in Riblah. And the king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death in Riblah, in the land of Hamath, so Judah was carried away into exile out of its land. And for the people who were left in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon left behind, he appointed Gedaliah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan over them. And when all the captains of the forces, they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah, that is, Ishmael the son of Nethaniah and Johanan the son of Kareah and Seraiah the son of Tanhumeth the Netophathite and Jazaniah the son of the Maccathite, they and their men. And Gedaliah swore to them and their men and said to them, Do not be afraid of the servants of the Chaldeans, dwell in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will be well with you. In the 7th month, Ishmael the son of Nethaniah the son of Elishama, of the royal seed, came with 10 men with him, and they struck down Gedaliah and he died. And they did the same to the Jews and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the forces rose up and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. In the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim the king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 27th day of the month, Evil-Merodach the king of Babylon, in the year that he became king, released Jehoiakim the king of Judah from prison. And he spoke with him kindly and set his throne above the throne of the kings who were with him in Babylon. And Jehoiakim changed his prison clothes and ate his food in his presence continually all the days of his life. And for his allowance, a continual allowance was given to him by the king, a portion for each day, all the days of his life.